Hey, it's Scott Vogel on sex addiction. Sex addiction is often misunderstood. And in this 6-minute video, I'm going to share with you the 7 symptoms of sex addiction to help you recognize these symptoms with your patients, your clients, parishioners, family members, employees, or friends, and help them get into recovery from sex addiction. Symptom 1 I call overindulgence. Frequently engaging in more sex and with more partners than intended. This symptom can be very tricky because some people are just naturally sexually active and with many different partners. However, there are 2 keys here, and the first one is with more partners than intended. This aspect of the symptom is easily noticed, particularly by the sex addict. The symptom also implies an escalation of sexual activity. And the second key here is more sex with more partners. This is an important distinction because over time a pattern will develop with sex addicts struggling. It's an easy symptom for the addict to deny. However, if they're being honest with themselves, they'll realize that they're having more sex and needing more sex with more partners. Symptom 2 is preoccupation. Being preoccupied with or persistently craving sex, wanting to cut down and unsuccessfully attempting to limit sexual activity. While it's true some people have a stronger sex drive than others, sex addicts, on the other hand, have a constant preoccupation with sexual thoughts and sexual behaviors. The sex addict will persistently desire sex even when they have a strong inner desire to cut back or limit their sexual activity. A healthy person, on the other hand, who simply has a strong sex drive, can easily control those urges, desires, and sexual activity. Symptom number 3 is obsessing. Thinking of sex to the detriment of other activities or continually engaging in excessive sexual practices despite a desire to stop. Healthy people are able to carry on with their daily activities and responsibilities without sexual thoughts or activities getting in their way. However, sex addicts allow those thoughts and activities to completely take over their lives, and they end up neglecting their responsibilities. This happens even when the sex addict desires to stop, and they just can't. Symptom 4, compulsion. Spending considerable time in activities related to sex, such as cruising for sexual partners or spending hours online visiting pornographic websites. Make no mistake, healthy people love sex and sexual activities, and that's healthy. However, for a sex addict, their sexual activities will completely take over their entire life. This will involve spending hours and hours in their sexually compulsive behaviors. They include masturbation, pornography, sex with multiple partners, cybersex, phone sex, frequenting strip clubs, prostitutes, and so many more. Symptom 5 is neglect. Neglecting obligations such as work, school, or family in pursuit of sex. This symptom is actually a progression of symptom number 4, the compulsion. The sex addict will spend hours and hours engaged in sexual activities, and it leaves little time for any other aspects of their life, such as work, school, family, exercise, and a lot of times even basic nutrition. Those struggling with sex addiction will arrange their lives around their addiction. This means everything else in their lives will naturally be neglected and eventually deteriorate to a point of hitting bottom. Symptom 6, insanity. Continually engaging in the sexual behavior despite negative consequences, such as broken relationships or potential health risks. Would a sane, normal, healthy person engage in behaviors that could get them arrested, cause them to lose their job, their health, their family, everything they've got? No, they wouldn't. But you see, a sex addict will continue in those behaviors. This symptom is one that is very easy to identify because, as I said, a healthy person won't engage in those behaviors when faced with those negative consequences. Some people just don't understand how a sex addict could continue with the same activities knowing it's going to result in devastating consequences, knowing it's going to destroy their lives. It is important to remember sex addicts are suffering from a disease. Symptom 7, irritability. It's an escalating scope or frequency of sexual activity to achieve the desired effect, such as more frequent visits to prostitutes or more sex partners, feeling irritable when unable to engage in the desired behavior. When you think in terms of drug addiction, this symptom is easy to understand. Most people know that drug addicts must continually escalate the amount of drugs they consume just to get their fix. Well, it's the same way with sex addicts. They need more sex to get the same fix and the same rush. Sexual addiction is just like any other addiction. The addict will become irritable when he or she is unable to engage in their sexually compulsive behaviors and get their fix. As a review of the 7 symptoms of sex addiction, symptom 1 is overindulgence. It's engaging in more sex and with more partners than intended. Symptom 2 is the preoccupation, being preoccupied or craving sex all the time. Symptom 3 is the obsession, allowing the sexual thoughts to take over a person's life. Symptom 4 is the compulsion, spending considerable time engaging in those sexual activities. Symptom 5 is neglect, neglecting obligations such as school, work, family, nutrition, or health in the pursuit of sex. And symptom 6 is insanity, engaging in sexual behaviors despite the negative consequences. And finally, symptom 7, irritability, feeling irritable and cranky when not able to engage in their sexual activity. Understanding the 7 symptoms of sex addiction is important for healthcare professionals, counselors, spiritual advisors, members of the clergy, family members, or anyone who wants to help those struggling with sex addiction. Visit our YouTube channel on sex addiction for more videos on sex addiction and recovery from sex addiction. You can also go to www.onsexaddiction.com for a free video explaining sex addiction and to get more information about sex addiction and sex addiction recovery.